Welcome to Deep Thoughts While Gaming. I'm Chris Chappell. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. How often do you think of the Roman Empire? The answer for me is obviously daily, because I've been playing the city-building classic Caesar 3 daily since it came out in 1998, 25 years ago. My bones are dust. Developed by Sierra Studios, the game asks you to step into the role of Roman governor as you navigate a series of increasingly challenging missions for the Emperor of Rome. I, of course, play as Big Dickus. Players must manage the diverse needs of the Roman citizens, from farms to craftsmen making pottery, even entertainment like a coliseum. Bread and circuses are the foundation of the empire. Ah yes, look at that resolution, that FPS. You can build a simple well, but wouldn't the citizens of Rome much prefer an extravagant fountain? Or perhaps a Roman bath? As you increase the desirability of your city, dwellings evolve from simple rustic tents to impressive palaces. You have an array of advisors to help you keep the plebs happy. Are they employed? Is the city's hygiene good? Are they not entertained? But keeping the hoi polloi happy is just the beginning. You must also manage relations with neighboring cities through trade, or let's be honest, you're gonna send your legionnaires to conquer them and take their riches. But perhaps most challenging of all is keeping the pantheon of Roman gods appeased. In many ways, the gods are just as fickle as the people of Rome. There are temples devoted to each god, and you must build all of them. Show greater favor to one god, and the others will be mad. And you do not want to incur the wrath of the gods. If Ceres is happy, she can bless your city with faster crop growth. Make her mad, and they won't grow at all. Fortunately, you have an option to turn the gods off. If only you could do that in real life. Boy, the sinning I would do. But there is another god whom you must also satisfy, and that's the emperor himself. The Roman emperor, like all rulers in the ancient world, was also worshipped as divine. Not only that, he also served as the high priest of Rome. Starting with Augustus, the emperor took the title Pontifex Maximus, or supreme priest, making himself the head of the Roman state cult. And in Caesar 3, the consequences of failing to appease the emperor is just as disastrous as displeasing the gods. You have to fulfill the emperor's increasingly frequent and sometimes unreasonable requests and give ever greater gifts and tribute. Failure to do so will incur Caesar's wrath.
You will mock Caesar no more!
As the United States slips into an era of economic and political turmoil, it's easy to see why many would choose to retreat into a romanticized vision of the Roman Empire, an idealized period of prosperity, culture, and stability. But the reality of Rome may not be what people imagine. As Calgacus, chief of the Caledonian Confederacy, who fought the Roman army in Scotland, said, "Rome created a wasteland and called it peace." The Roman Empire was forged through mass enslavement and slaughter, which, to be fair, is how I run my Sims. In the ancient world, your ability to dominate, conquer, and enslave your fellow humans showed you were favored by the gods. I knew building all those temples to Mars would pay off. Greek historian and philosopher Plutarch says Julius Caesar became known as a hero when he massacred 1 million Gauls and enslaved another 1 million. Hitler would have fit right in. Vae victis, a phrase that will be all too familiar to anyone who's played Legacy of Kain.
Vae victis!
But it's a real-life Latin phrase that means woe to the vanquished. Those defeated in battle are entirely at the mercy of their conquerors and should not expect or request leniency. Perhaps no one felt the yoke of Roman occupation more than the early Christians. If you risked being fed to the lions, you'd be thinking about Rome every day too. Rather than being a champion of civilization, to the early Christians, Emperor Nero was an image of the Antichrist. But it wasn't that early Christians thought the Romans themselves were demons. Rather, they were following in a much older Jewish tradition that saw the nations of the world as themselves slaves, held under the dominion and authority of demonic powers. You may have heard of the story of Prometheus, the divine being who defied the gods of Olympus to bring man fire, and for it was severely punished. It's a common story in the ancient world. In ancient Babylon, there was the story of the Apkallu, 7 demigods, part man, part fish, very horror of Innsmouth, who gifted the Babylonian kings knowledge from an advanced civilization that was lost after the Great Flood. Yes, most ancient cultures also have a flood story. As punishment, the other gods imprisoned the Apkallu in the abyss. These stories tell us of rebellious divine beings who championed man by giving them technology, metallurgy, potion making, agriculture, music. Spirits played an important role in the ancient world. In Rome, they worshipped the genius of the emperor. They weren't saying he was really smart. The emperor's genius was a spirit that would give him wisdom. Socrates said he had a demon that whispered wisdom to his soul. I too have access to secrets. But there's another version of this story from the ancient world with a very different take. The story of Eve and the serpent. The devil rebels against God by giving humanity forbidden knowledge, not for their benefit, but to destroy them. The knowledge itself isn't inherently evil. In the rest of the Bible, knowledge of good and evil is used to refer to coming of age, of maturity. But knowledge before you're ready for it can be dangerous. Metallurgy can be used to craft better farm tools. It can also be used to craft better weapons, to kill and enslave your neighbors. Nuclear energy can cleanly power cities or save lives from cancer. The first thing we did with it was to make bombs that killed hundreds of thousands of people. Very appropriate then that after the first testing of the bomb, Oppenheimer quoted the Bhagavad Gita, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." That theme of demons giving humanity forbidden knowledge to destroy themselves is carried on in the story of Cain and his line. After murdering his brother Abel, Cain founds a city called Eridu, a real ancient Sumerian city that people once thought was the first human city. In ancient Rome, people thought about Eridu every day. But rather than presenting Eridu as a pinnacle of human achievement, the biblical telling casts the city in a much darker light. Cain's line ultimately climaxes in the Nephilim. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went into the daughters of humans and had children by them. They were the heroes of old, men of renown. The Nephilim are giants. In the 20th century, deep in the Judean desert, archaeologists discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls, a set of ancient Jewish manuscripts. One of the documents discovered was called the Book of Giants, and one of those giants is the old Babylonian hero Gilgamesh. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, he's described as being 2/3 God. That's right, 2/3. In their stories of the Nephilim, the ancient Jews were responding to something they saw going on all around them, where in elaborate ritual, involving animal and sometimes human sacrifice and cannibalism, the god-king of a city would embody the god of the city and bed with a temple prostitute to release divine fertile energy to ensure good crops and productive herds. What did you think was going on in all those temples to Venus? And any child produced in that union would be considered 2/3 God. These were the heroes of old, the men of renown. The message the Bible is sending is that the great heroes and empires of legend were actually rooted in evil, dedicated to the enslavement and domination of your fellow man. The spirits weren't gods, but fallen angels, demons, using the promise of forbidden knowledge to lure humanity into idolatry and sexual immorality, like an extremely twisted city of angels. Now, I'm not saying Nicolas Cage is a Nephilim. I'm just saying the dude has a pyramid crypt. The story of the Nephilim is expanded upon in the Book of Enoch, another text found among the Dead Sea Scrolls. In it, a demon known as Azazel lays out a plan to destroy humanity, first by luring them in with secret knowledge, then into sexual immorality, culminating in human sacrifice and cannibalism. Now, I'm not saying that the modern sexual revolution was a demonic plot that ends in cannibalism, but it did lead to women entering the workforce, which led to inflation. And if the current economic downturn continues, Alex Jones has said he will eat his neighbors.
But I'm literally looking at my neighbors now and going, I'm ready to hang them up and gut them and skin them and chop them up. And you know what? I'm ready. My daughters aren't starving to death. I'll eat my neighbors.
And I am saying Alex Jones is a Nephilim. But these rituals weren't limited to just the ancient Near East. They were happening as far away as Mesoamerica. So is it possible these rituals are still happening today? Yes, in every game of Caesar 3. And I will dominate the NPCs. Keep watching Deep Thoughts While Gaming. And remember, leave a like for every time you think about Rome. And if a spirit comes to you and offers you wisdom, be sure to invite me to your sex cult.